Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the Farm to Table Direct show. And today's live on Tuesday night here. And we have an incredible guest with us today, someone who's making waves in the farm to market community. Please join me in welcoming Bridget Nichols, the visionary owner of Farmacy Barn to Table Market. Bridget has turned her passion for sustainable farming into a thriving local hub where producers and consumers can connect directly. Bridget, welcome to the show.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Now, Bridget, I'm really excited about this topic, especially in light of its ability to feed people on a local level, which I think is highly important. And I know that we've spoken about it off air and we've spoken about it on the phone in different places. But tonight, I'm really excited to get into it and to kind of discover your journey and I want to kind of dig into the how you got started in this and the why you started, because I think that the why that we do some of this stuff is so important, is part of what drives us to do what we do.
Sure. So I guess there's a few different reasons why I got into this. One being obviously to be able to provide a platform for local producers to be able to then have a place to market their goods back into the community. So it's community serving community, which is what we love and what we're all about. So we're all about community. Um, Also, kind of ending of the name Farmacy, Farmacy, not the PH kind, is that watching many of my family members, losing my grandfather, my grandmother very young, seeing my parents be in not that great of health. And a lot of it came from, um, you know, choices along the way, whether it be, quality of life choices or food choices or different things like that. And really, kind of like how Hippocrates says, let food be thy medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really kind of where the whole idea of pharmacy, farm to table market, came, where that is truly how we feel ourselves and how we get back to what we are intended to be in the first place. And then it kind of evolved from there into a lot of more medicinal type things. So that's kind of where some of the ideation of it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, though, what really spurred everything on happened, as many things did, COVID. And my husband and I and my children, we were living in the Oklahoma City area in Edmond at the time when COVID started. I worked for a state agency at the time, and my husband and I both got COVID. I got very, very, very sick. Even was hospitalized for a while. Ended up with long COVID. It affected my health long term, and just going through that and being at home a lot, which was great. A lot of family time, seeing people, seeing neighbors that normally you wouldn't see them, just kind of out and about, especially when it first started, before the fear took hold, really.
Right.
And then, my family and I, we like to watch kind of some older shows. So, Swiss Family Robinson, and then, Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
And this is really, really where it got me, is seeing Carol Ingalls take her eggs that she gathered that morning and take them into the mercantile there. And not that I wanted to be Mrs. Olson, okay? We're not going there. But she was able to trade those eggs or put on credit, and then she was able to get the things that she needed for her family.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love that. So, the store was just one aspect. There's also going back to the homesteading and learning those skills that, I grew up in rural Oklahoma. I grew up on a farm. Couldn't wait to get off that thing. I can still feel, the pain of snapping green beans on my thumbs. Even to this day, I can still feel that.
Yeah.
I remember telling my mom, I hate working in the garden. When I grow up, I'm going to live in a high-rise apartment and I'm never going to have a garden. I remember doing that, and now here I am. I teach homesteading and gardening classes. I'm like, what happened?
Right.
A lot of it was coming back home, having this feeling. And as I speak with many, many, many people that are in this homestead world,
Yeah.
this sense of urgency, a calling to maybe something's coming, maybe something's not. I don't know. I'm not saying either way on that, but that to start learning these skills now when I don't need them instead of being in the thick of something and not knowing them and trying to learn them when I actually do need them. And of course, it's simplified our way of life so much. And then, it's also providing that place where I'm not saying that something's going to happen, but if something did happen, the grid goes down, power outages, that happens to us, that has happened to us, whatever it is. And we're not able to use swipe our debit cards. We're not able to whatever. We don't have cash. We can't get money out of the ATM.
Mm-hmm.
I have corn and you have tomatoes, and we've built this community where I know that I can go and I can trade with you.
Right.
So it's really about all of it, from the beginning from the farmer to the consumer to this to homesteading to everything. It's really centered on community and building that sense of community. That's
Right.
Really
And it's not unheard of that, things run out on the shelf, and it signals to
we saw
us.
that in COVID.
Yeah, we saw it. So it's not an imagination. It's not really even a fear. It's more like, people see things and they say, maybe we ought to prepare for that, right? And so it's not fear mongering. Maybe it's a warning shot to us saying, hey, things could happen. Bring things a little bit closer back to home. And so, how much of that aspect of things led to you opening this store in order to bring that supply chain or take some links out of that supply chain? And the other part of that question is also, is it better to get started now before you have the need, right? Build this thing before something like that happens again. And then we find ourselves just,
Right.
building those relationships, building that community aspect.
Well, I'm going to answer your second question first. Absolutely. You don't want to, in this type of situation, be building the plane as you're trying to fly it. We want to build those relationships. Even the summit I was in today, it was talking about being ready for when bringing larger businesses to your community. You want to have those relationships on the ground already first.
Right.
You want to build those relationships now. I don't want to be out and about trying to, find eggs or milk or whatever when I desperately need it. I want to know that I have a friend down the road or a friend in the next town or a friend wherever that I can call and be like, hey, do you have this? I have this.
And I would like to point out that, what an amazing opportunity it must be for you to, you're in touch with the vendors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Suppliers. I mean, you have also supplies that you bring into it, but you're in touch with those suppliers. And so it must bring you some source of comfort knowing that because you've built these relationship with those suppliers, that in a time of need, then you feel like you know who to call in case you need something, right? And because you've built these relationships, it's not just a one-way street. It's kind of a two-way street. And in some things, I would even call it a three-way street because you're dealing with a vendor, you're dealing with your shop, and you're also dealing with customers who have needs. And so you're strengthening those ties between the community on something that's extremely important, and that is sourcing our food. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, these vendors, many of the customers we have, they feel like family members now.
Mhm.
They absolutely do. They have become dear, dear friends to us, and mentors even in a lot of areas, in our lives. Confidants, really.
I don't feel that in a big chain store, do you?
No.
Feel like another person in a line, you know, but, yeah, that's a really good point.
So saying that kind of, I mean, I guess in a sense sets us up. I mean, y'all got a core mission there. I mean, there was something that drove you. You told us before, a calling. So
Mhm.
you have a core mission. And how does that differ? We're talking about the box stores. How does that differ? What y'all do differ from a typical grocery store?
Um, Gosh, it comes down to relationship, honestly. We know the people that are coming in our doors. We know their family members. We know their aunts, uncles, cousins. And it may, some of it may be just from being from a small town, but a lot of it is actually caring about people and what they need and what they want. And, my husband, I can't tell you how many times he has people come in and they ask him to pray for them, um, if they need help, if they're having an issue or whatever, they come in to talk. When I was younger, there was in our little town, there's a little automotive shop,
Mm.
and I remember going in there sometimes, and you'd see the older guys sitting over there, and they had their big fish stories and talking about politics and or that real Mayberry feel, and you're like, I just love that. I absolutely love that, and we kind of recreate that a little bit even in our own shop where our customers are truly are like family to us. And I'm getting a little emotional here even talking about it, but with my husband, it's become even so much more than just we are providing a service or we're providing goods. It's a place that people can go and they can feel welcome and they can get what they need. And it may not be what's on the shelves always.
You
You
know,
know?
that's what we've called the spit and whittle club that you're talking about, you know, hanging
Yeah.
out on a bench outside on Main Street. We grew up in some of those areas to where that was still happening then. I don't see that so much these days. I do think there are still some places.
Happens in my town.
Oh, does it happen in your town?
You
That's
go
cool.
up to you go up to the we have a local convenience store that has a grill, so they have breakfast and dinner and stuff. But particularly in the mornings, you go down there and yeah, the old timers are sitting around the table having their breakfast and talking about the hay crop or talking about their animals or what's going on. And yeah, so it's very much alive there, So it's
So,
still
Bridget,
Mhm.
um, where do you see the future of this? Do you see a future to where the community more and more are adapting these types of places for a food hub? And what are some of the challenges that you guys might be facing making that happen?
Yeah. So, absolutely. I definitely think that there is a need and a want for it. Not just speaking for our little business, but I honestly believe that there should be a place like ours in every single community. I
Yeah.
think every community deserves the right and should have a place where they can go and get locally produced, nutrient dense, know where it came from goods,
Mhm.
and it's going right back into their community, and it creates that cyclical economy where, like I said, it's community supporting community.
right. Mhm.
And so what are some of the challenges, I guess, that you face? Because
Mhm.
for me, I know that this is kind of a new concept. I mean, new concept for our generation. It's kind of an old concept that's a hybrid concept, probably from our older general stores,
Yeah.
uh, but brought into modern times, but bringing us back closer to our communities. I know that there must be some challenges to make what I would love to see as our primary source of food.
Mhm. Sure. So, some of the challenges, it can be somewhat supply issues because these are local people that are trying to produce these items. So, it's not like in a big box store where it's all bulk produced. It's interesting because early in the spring, we have people, or even still now, people will come in, they're wanting tomatoes, or they're wanting, early in the spring they're wanting watermelon. It's like, well, the garden's not producing yet, or the garden stopped producing. It's not, people are used to that instant gratification where you can go to Walmart and you can probably get a watermelon, and you can probably still get tomatoes and whatever that's grown in labs or who knows what.
Yeah.
If you have a farm grown tomato,
Right.
and then you have one from a big box store, try to tell me there's not a difference.
Actually,
So, so there's that. There's that convenience issue that we have as a society become so accustomed to. And then, with a lot of our producers, a lot of our vendors, the way the Farm Hub model is set up, while it is absolutely a great concept, there's still constraints and restrictions. So for me, I can only everything has to be on consignment. I can't buy wholesale. So
right.
a lot of the investment is on our vendors up front, so that they have to then wait for that 30-day payout or whatever. So they're putting all of their product here, and it could be thousands of dollars worth of product possibly, hoping that it's going to sell and that they're going to be able to meet that merchandise fee and that percentage, and get a payout. And obviously, in a small community like mine, we have 400 people. So that's not a lot of people. So they might be in more than one farm hub because they're kind of cropping up everywhere, which is amazing and which is great. But that's more and more and more investment on that vendor, and having to wait on that payout that may or may not come, depending on if people are shopping there or not, honestly.
Right.
And so that's hard on them. So, I've been talking with Michaela Halverston, who is at the Oklahoma Department of Food and Forestry, who is over the farm hubs. And we're talking about being able to go to the legislature and change some of that law and verbiage to where we can buy some wholesale stuff from our vendors to kind of help them out. And then that helps us with our price points as well.
Well, you talk about that, and it reminds me of a saying and a meme that I've several times I've read at different places. The farmer is the only person who buys at retail, sells at wholesale, and pays the freight both ways.
Right.
And so,
Need the tax on top of it.
So I mean, the challenges are there, no doubt about it. But if you're like me, I see those challenges that are before us, which are real, and it's a struggle to get that, but it's also an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a real opportunity to innovate. And like, for example, you mentioned the tomatoes, and the other day when we were talking on the phone, I think I mentioned to you that I knew a guy.
Yeah.
Right. In aquaponics, and can aquaponics help us to bridge that particular gap when we're looking for fresh grown tomatoes? Because in there, I know they have at least 4 seasons. And I know two people that have decent sized farms that could definitely guide us or even supply, and one of them is the supplier for Union Schools. And I've toured his facility. Great guy. He's a Christian guy. They call him the Jesus loving Russian. And I was intrigued by that, and I got to go up with a friend of mine and meet him, and he's willing to interview with us. But he's got an amazing system to where he's constantly turning out lettuce and tomatoes. Those are his 2 primary things.
Yes.
And so could that be an innovation. And so, just using that as an illustration of
Sure.
something that we could look towards as a way to bridge that gap.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, and the more that kind of stuff can happen and that stuff is teachable, to
Mhm.
try to keep that in that local system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as I know, it's still nutrient dense,
Hmm.
and I guess it depends on how they're grown. But as I understand it, I mean, I was touring a facility and that was growing okra, and the person that was there said, "Have you ever had fresh okra off of a tree?" And this was aquaponically grown. Reached over and snapped it, handed it to me, and I thought, "Oh boy, what am I in for?" I like okra. I ate that, and now I eat okra completely raw because it is delicious,
Absolutely. See,
and it came from an aquaponics.
it took him, 40 years to join me in that crowd. I,
Uh-huh.
I was a young teenager. I mean, it's like sixth grade, I think, the first time I had raw okra from a garden, and
That's
I love
great.
it. I love it. It's great. And yeah, you know, I mean, Bridget, we talk about, this idea of the hub, and I mean, and
Hmm.
even, I mean, I know there's Farm Direct, there's different versions of this same thing in different places already, but it is fairly new. But, how would an individual or a community or a church or somebody go? I mean, what's some of the steps to realizing that? I mean, to making something like that happen. I mean, you had to do it,
Yeah.
so
It's been a couple of years now, but it's actually very, very, very simple, almost too simple, really. So I'm like, is it going to get harder? I don't know. Um, but really, you can go on to the Oklahoma Agritourism website
okay.
and type in Farm Hub, and you can just Google Farm Hub in Oklahoma, and it'll take you straight to it. And it's basically a 1 to 2 pager. You fill it out. You have at least 4 um, fresh produce vendors that sign up and agree to be part of your farm hub.
Mhm.
Okay.
You have some bylaws and you submit it. And it's really that simple.
Well, that's the legal side.
Logistics
What's the logistics side look like for this?
side. Well, gosh, I don't know. It's probably not the way everybody did it, but this is the way it happened for us. You know, I talked about that sense of urgency, and it literally started to get to a point where it was keeping me up at night, or it would wake me up in the middle of the night, like
Yeah.
almost hurting in my stomach. And I would tell my husband, like, we've got to do this. Like, I'm telling you, like, I'm being told that we need to do this. Um, and so we started off with just doing a once a month farmers market in our little town. Started off with that. Started in May of 21
Right. Okay.
and went through that season and was like, well, I don't really want to stop this. So we went to the American Legion and we had one through the winter. We did a Christmas market. And then by February, I was approached by the mayor. He said, hey, we're purchasing this building with our Economic Development Authority. And they didn't even have it bought yet. And he said, if we buy this, will you want to go in there full time? I'm like, yes, we do. Absolutely. That's the goal. That's what I want. So in less than a year, we went from a once a month farmers market to being a full blown farm hub. And what's funny is that, I had this idea in the back of my head. I didn't know that this was an actual thing that that the Oklahoma Department of Food and Forestry was already beginning on. Excuse me. Or that some other individuals had also frontiered. I thought this was just a creation out of my own little brain, but great minds think alike, and there was already a plan in place that helped pave the way. So that's how it helped. That's how it happened for us. So it can be as simple as just finding you a vacant storefront, or depending on how often you're open. I mean, we're open 6 days a week. There's other farm hubs that I know of that are open just a couple days a week or one day a week. So it could just be partnering with a local place that has a building or a church or somewhere, and just, there you go, let's set up and let's go.
You just mentioned the church,
Mhm.
and that's something else that has intrigued Ryan and I lately, especially after our last interview with Chris Reeves,
Mhm.
that churches becoming a hub themselves of the community, kind of like they used to be. Do you remember going back to your Little House on the Prairie illustration? You
Mhm.
know, that wasn't the church also the school, and the school
Right.
is the church, and it's just where people gathered
Correct.
to have a town meeting, and I mean, just it was like that, and so this aspect of a church, and probably the overhead would
Mhm.
probably go down a little bit in a church, and there are so many churches right now that I would say are that are struggling
Mhm.
um, in their communities, and I think it's kind of an awesome idea in my mind. I mean, I'm biased to it, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of churches have food pantries and stuff like that anyway. Like, if you add a little farm hub store to it to generate some income for the church, then why not? I
yeah,
mean, you already have all the little ladies baking all their goods anyway. Let them sell them.
there you go.
I know Granny K in our community. My gosh, if she ever gives out the recipes to her pies, because at the little, I mean, like I said, it's a very small town, but they have an annual chamber banquet, and I know some of her pies have auctioned off for $600, $700, $800. So
Wow.
Wow,
they're good things.
that's a good recipe.
It's a very good recipe. Your chocolate pies, I'm telling you what.
Oh, that is awesome.
So,
Bro, I'm going to take a little pause right quick. I mean, just kind of
sure.
jump out and welcome all of our people into chat. We've been kind of doing it on the comment block, but we got Let's Trade Paints in, and Petra Beer is in. Of course, Carmen Melly is in. Cedar Line Homestead joined in with us. Red Feather Farms, of course, Dwayne there with that. Cedar Line Homestead had a comment earlier when we were talking about. At the farm hub, how your husband, talks with people, and then the Spit and Whittle Club, as we were talking about, and their comment was, our world is removing verbal communication. It is good to revive that type of communication.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I just wanted to give that shout out to everybody in the chat right quick before we moved on down to the next part of that.
Yeah, as a part of that, just to continue that a little bit, if you're in the audience and you've got a question for Bridget, this is the time to ask. Leave it right over there in the chat, wherever it's at, and ask those questions. Because if you've got the question, I'm sure that our audience would, who watches this later, is also going to have the same questions.
Right.
And so, I'm just going to put this other one up here real quick.
Yeah.
From Cedar Line Homestead. Doing income in a church is a little tricky, but I would like to see food pantry turn into local produce.
Mhm.
And that's, I would say, I mean, as somebody who sits on, as part of the board of a church, and what we have to do with the 501(c) and that type of things, it gets you some exceptions. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do that a typical business can't do. So I mean, it's all about being nonprofit. So everything has to go back into to the facility and to the operating cost. But every state's got their. I mean, there's the federal regulation, but every state's got their different areas you got to deal with on that. And I know for us, there's a lot of things we can do as a church that a typical business in the state can't do. So you just got to do your research, do your homework on that. I mean, but I agree, getting local products and local produce into the food pantries would be a good thing. And
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
yeah. Dwayne gave you a good comment. He said Bridget and Travis are so good at hosting classes that benefit the community. So Dwayne's giving you a little bit of love over there.
Yeah.
Well,
Mine's
with
good.
that kind of reminded me of something that was on my mind, and that is bringing community awareness. How much is what you do,
Mhm.
or bringing new business in that evolves around educating the public?
Well, a lot of it, because I am an educator at heart. So,
Yeah.
in our farm hub, it's really a three-pronged approach. So we have the farm hub, we have the sales side, then we also we host classes. So nearly every Saturday we have a workshop, and with Heartland Homestead Families, we host every third Thursday. So this coming Thursday, we will be having a laundry making class. So if anybody wants to come out, 7 p.m. at the Farmacy Barn to Table Market in Oshaleta, Oklahoma, we're going to teach about making laundry soap that's not going to have all the junk and chemicals, and it's pennies on the dollar, and you get like 2 5-gallon buckets of laundry soap out of this recipe. It's amazing. So things like that, all kinds of different homesteading topics. It could be laundry soap, it could be old-fashioned soap making, it could be gardening, it could be medicinal herbs, it could be we've done tallow and fat rendering, Cherokee traditional basket weaving, just anything homestead related, or traditional back to your roots related. We're all about that.
Well, that fascinates me. So I want to spend a little time here. It just occurs to me as you're talking about this is that you're bringing in experts who are actually your vendors, probably, to give talks about these things and it becomes a public service to your community, and they get to learn something that they either take home and just use for themselves, or they decide to give back to the community, and maybe they themselves become a vendor. But at the very least, they become aware of what's going on in this community and may become what I would say is one of the key aspects to the success of the Farm Hub. And that is the consumer, the customer that comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one thing that we have found that really helps us, as far as whether it's marketing, whether it's promoting our vendors, whether it's increasing sales for our vendors, is having these classes. So not only is it helping the community at large and at whole learn these skills, but oftentimes, they're going to learn it, and maybe they'll go ahead and go home and use it, or maybe they'll just think, well, that's awesome. I see that Dwayne already has tinctures over here, so I'm just going to go ahead and buy these, whatever it is. So, and as they're learning this, because, you don't want to, some of it, you don't want to just go out all willy nilly and start making some of these things, you might want to take a couple classes. You might want to do some hands-on learning a few times before you just go out, some of it can be dangerous. Old-fashioned soap making using lye, that can be dangerous. So, that's one thing. I have gone through so many classes, and Angela and Zeidel, who are on our homestead, they keep teaching it, and I have still yet to do it on my own because it still makes me nervous to chemical burn myself. But and I consider Dwayne my mentor, and I am very much into natural medicine, as far as what God has provided us, and in our gardens that we can use. And I've been learning to make some tinctures and tonics and fire cider and things like that. Am I just going to go and start Googling recipes and putting concoctions together? Probably no. Because just because it's natural doesn't always mean that it's not still real medicine.
Yeah, you don't want to get into Dwayne's category of a Pinterest herbalist. So,
yeah. Don't be a Pinterest herbalist.
But he spent a lot of time understanding that, and so you're bringing those experts into your business, and it's really good to know, and for the consumer to know that, hey, these products that are on our shelves are verified experts in the field of these things. And oh, by the way, they're pretty local to us, and they're accessible to us. It's not like some factory way overseas are shipping things in big containers, to cut the cost and everything into that. And then you have no idea where it came from, right? Or who made it, or what their intentions were. But in this community, especially, Dwayne is laughing over in the chat, but
yeah, well, and that's the thing, is that when you buy from a Farm Hub, whether it's mine, whether it's any of the others, you're buying from your friend, from your family member, from your neighbor. These folks. You know what I mean? It's local. You say how local is local. At one time I did a Facebook thing, and I took a map and I pinplotted where our products come from, because I want to say how local is local. You know what I mean? So we know what we're getting. We know that it's not going to be lab grown meat. We know that it's not going to be 3D printed meat. I mean, we have 3D printed materials in our store that are toys, like the plastic toys. I can't even apply them and wrap my head around 3D printed meat. I'm like, how does that work? I don't understand this.
Slurry. I'm sorry that this brings up. See, we did an episode sometime back, and if anybody who wants to check that out,
We did it.
we talked about lab grown meat, and it's kind of an interesting study what they're talking about. But when you think about it, no.
Yeah, absolutely not. So we know what we're putting in our bodies when we purchase things from a farm hub.
Right.
We know that it's coming from, Schmidt Livestock, or American Heritage Beef, or Red Feather Farms with their goat meat. I know where it's coming from. I know what is being fed. I know how the animals are treated. And when I say treated, not just like treated on, yes, they're nice to their animals, but like what,
What's
how,
injected into them? How
yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
What kind of grain
know,
or grass are they eating? That sort of thing.
yeah. So I know my food sources. I know what's going into my body, and I know whether it's going to be healing me or harming me.
Right.
Right. We can buy carrots in these large chain stores, but can we buy nutrient dense carrots, tomato, vegetables of all sorts?
Absolutely.
Right. And so with that, I want to kind of turn this into, I think, a question that's on everybody else's mind, especially in the light of our economy. And that is the affordability, shopping at one of these hub stores. And so, I know that that's probably one of the concerns that, well, in the big box store, I can buy it for this price, and my family really can't afford to pay anything additional than what we already do. We're struggling with what we pay already. And so, what's the way forward with that? And can you kind of frame the answer to that so that people understand why this is so much better?
I mean, it has been a minute since I have actually bought food from a big box store. I'm just gonna be honest. So I couldn't even really tell you how much prices are anymore. What I can tell you is that if it is cheaper, which I hear a lot of complaints about how expensive groceries are now.
Yes.
I see the memes all the time because I'm still on social media. So I see that. So I can't say whether it's a lot more expensive or a lot cheaper or whatever. What I can say is that if it is cheaper, I guess if you want to pay less money for lab grown plastic particles strung together, something other, and call it meat, sure.
Mhm.
Like I said earlier at the beginning of this talk, Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine."
Yeah.
So what you put into your body is what is going to shape and form your body. That's what's going into your cells. That's what's building all these new pathways and all these new cells and all the regeneration of each skin cell and liver cell and brain cell. And that's what it's building from. It's taking whatever nutrients or non-nutrients are in those foods, and that's that's what you're becoming. So there's that. So you can either pay for it now or you can pay for it later. And that's, a kind of a cliche answer, I know. And once again, this is me saying this on not truly knowing what the prices of big box store meats are anymore, because I practice what I preach. I shop from my vendors at my store. When I am out and about, when I am traveling, I'm gonna stop by Farm Hippie or OK Roots or Rooted Harmony or Toledo or Early Bird Market or Blue Star Mountain Market. That's where I'm going to shop at. I'm going to find those small places. I'm going to find those locally produced places. I'm going to find those mom and pop stores, and that's where I'm going to shop. you're going to be very, very hard to find me in a Walmart. Just going to be honest with you.
You're my hero. I just want kind of idolizing you right now.
I'm not going to go out there and just be like, oh yeah, shop local, and here I am, whatever.
Right.
Because I am trying to be more self-conscious for my own health after seeing my grandparents and parents either die early and be taken from me early because of lifestyle or food choices. You know, my grandfather, my father, my husband's father, my biological father, they died at 60 years old. 60. My mom is 62 and she's not in the best of health at all. And you know, it's a societal thing, really. We may live longer, but what's our quality of life? I don't know. And some of them just aren't. So I'm here for the longevity of it, and I want to be healthier. I'm on my own health journey. So there's that. And gosh, I feel like I kind of got off on a tangent there, but
It's okay.
No.
back to being, you know, if you don't want to do it for your health, then also here's another interesting thing. So apparently, was it last week before, there was a strike on the ports?
Yeah.
If it had not been for social media, I would not have been able to. I knew nothing of this. I see people, they were commenting about something about toilet paper and different things, like, and I'm like, what is going on? Because it didn't affect me.
Right.
The supply chain issue, whatever was going on in the ports, did not affect me because my supply chain is local. I shop local. And when you shop local, you don't have to worry about strikes in ports.
Right. Well, a thing that was going on during, a post that was going on during that time was, American-made products don't get stuck in ports, and but so there was that. But no, you brought back about the price and everything, and it was funny. We were setting up for this, and I've been, since we went to Ozark back at the first part of September, I've been slowly reading through Joel Salatin's Homestead Tsunami. And just last night I was reading a chapter, and in there he was talking about the price of things, because he has, their farm store and people come to them by, and he said he had a guy pull up in a BMW, right, and come in and ask him why his eggs cost so much more than the eggs in the store. He said, and he was like, he said, it kind of upset me. He said, I wanted to tell him some things, but I didn't, he said, all I did was just turned around and showed him his car and said, sir, clearly you understand quality and you have good taste. You get what you pay for. That's why my eggs cost more.
Good point.
Yeah.
And it's just, that kind of thing. Bro, I don't, if we want to, which I know we're talking about, and that's for, you see Dakota's question up there?
Let me see.
Yeah. He's kind of.
While you're looking for that, I would like to say that eggs in our store, or just in general, that Farm Hub stores may not be more expensive. I mean, we have our egg vendor, she sells her eggs at $2.75 and they're pasture raised. So there's that.
Oh my goodness. It's farm raised around here. Yeah. $3 to $5 a dozen for homegrown. Yeah. Which is worth it. I mean, it's, it's just, but we're not used to, we're used to the pasteurized, homogenized, all these products. And then if we switch back or we go over to like eggs or dairy, that's not been through that, like raw milk or, fried eggs, most of us have to adjust. Our biome, our gut biome has to adjust to that.
You might spend some time staying closer to home for a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. Way to put that.
And you'll be okay. Your body will readjust and it will reset.
Dakota, we're going to get that right there. Up at Old Pecan Homestead, they put trying to research how to grow pork with non-GMO feed affordably, and it's like trying to swim upstream. And the other comment goes on, their goal is to be 100% self-sufficient on meat. And so I don't know of the affordability on GMO feeds or non-GMO feeds. I mean, that's, I kind of wish some of our friends, that were there.
In that, yeah.
Look at Joel Salatin. I would have them like look at some of Joel Salatin's models and how he does pasture raised and how his feeding systems, whether it's his cattle or his pigs or his chickens, because he's able to cut his food costs way down in the way he does it in the paddock raising. So I would suggest looking into that.
Now I know.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I know. We spoke with Sean and Beth Dougherty up at Ozarks, and they're cutting the feed bill, reducing the feed bill down, and that type of thing. And they're big on the bringing back the family dairy cow. And they said even though they can't consume all that milk, every animal they have, eats that milk. Will drink that milk. Their pigs and all these different things. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of ways like that. But yeah, if you're having to supplemental feed, okay, but the beans have toxic anti-growth. I don't know. I know some excellent. He said I know some excellent sources, but the beans have toxic anti-growth without being processed. Okay, it's. I mean. Right. I don't know. I mean, I grew up where the pig ate whatever we didn't.
Yeah. Slop. That's what it was.
But and I mean that was. I've talked about wanting to grow corn. Well, corn has no nutritional value for me. I love the taste of it, but that's really what it's a filler. That's all it is. But what you can do with the corn, and what you can do with the corn stalks and the corn cobs and those things, and going into that type of thing is where, we used to feed that. That was what got fed to the pigs and stuff. But I mean, I don't, Dakota, I don't know if y'all aren't really, I don't think trying to go, I don't know if y'all were trying to go commercial on that or if it's just for your own food source. So, I mean, I think that might be some of that too. But who was it? There was like 3 different feed people. Down
there was OK Farm. Was it OK Farm?
It was I can't remember the man. I'd have to go back and look on the
different. And maybe Dakota's seen some of them around, but there's some resources out there for that. And those are good. Those are all good questions. And I do think that he was thinking of being a vendor and providing meat in his local area. And so he's kind of got that heart. Also.
Oh, hey, Dwayne had a good answer there, or an answer, a comment. Yeah. Going to East Texas next week to get bulk bag of corn and wheat, non-GMO, trading herbal things for the feed. This with a couple other things will feed my chickens for a year.
Wow. Yeah. That's great.
So, remember VW Family Farms, they're over in Central Arkansas. And that was one of the things they were struggling with is they couldn't find it. And it was like they were having to go all the way up into Missouri somewhere to find the non-GMO stuff. So, I mean, it was like,
Right. Well, what I want to say is that although we're speaking about the Farm Hub tonight, this is not completely unrelated because we're all related to each other because it's people like Dakota that becomes the vendors of tomorrow. And has the heart to feed the community. I know I've watched and some of his videos on his heart to do that. And so in this particular community, what I would say is I may not know the answer and maybe nobody on this panel will know the answer to that tonight, but we know we're in the right community to get those answers, and forming those relationships are exactly what the Farm to Table Direct Show is about. It's what Bridget's about, and I know it's what a lot of people that we have in chat and also other friends that we've had. And so, I would reach out to the community at large and ask that question. So if anybody's got the answer to that question, Dakota.
Awesome.
Leave it down in the comments below. Go over to Old Pecan Homestead on YouTube and also on Facebook, and shout him out. Tell him what you know.
Cedar Line Homestead did put a comment just a while ago. Said Kraut Creek is what she said she thinks on that. So I don't know who that is, but that may be a local somebody in that area that maybe does feed or does something like that. But maybe Cedar Line can answer that for us right there. But
right, and I think just real quick to wrap that up is that one of the key words is affordable, right?
Right.
Way, because you always have to pass that cost down to the consumer, no matter what. And so the best we can do to supply that type of stuff in an affordable way, that affordability also passes through to the consumer. And so
stare back in.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about earlier pre-show was our dependence upon convenience and what we're willing to trade for convenience.
Right.
And how does the Farm Hub model help in that? How does it work in the convenience model for the consumer? I mean, somebody who wants to buy. I mean, I think I've got an answer, but I may be wrong. So I want to hear you.
So how does the Farm Hub model work in the convenience?
Well, it's being convenient for the consumer, I mean, because I can go to, the box store and
Sure.
in and out, and whatever. It's convenient. It's on my way home, whatever, whereas
Maybe, yeah, or your Farm Hub is right there in your community, and so it's literally like right there, right around the corner, right down the street, whatever.
Right.
Especially in a lot of these small rural, more rural towns, like a lot of us are. So there's that. You're going to be able to go in and get what you need, or be able to ask immediately what you need, or go and say, hey, I have this going on. What can I get to help it?
Right.
And take it right over to the shelf and either get it or look it up in Dwayne's book or whatever, and figure that out, or even call the vendor and be like, hey, we have somebody looking for this. What do we need? You know what I mean? So there's definitely that. And, we talked earlier about what's the difference between, some of the difference between a big box store and a farm store. We talked about the things that my husband does as far as, praying his customers or whatever, but, we got a lot of little old ladies, and they call our store, they call it's their store, actually, just so you know. So, we had the pharmacy in Oshaleta, and really Oshaleta is made up of a community of 4 towns, or is part of a community of 4 towns. It's the Canyon Valley School District. So it's Ramona, Oshaleta, Vera, and Oglesby. So we're all the same community. We're all same people. We all went to the same school. Most of us were all related. So, and then so down the road in Ramona, there's Oklahoma Heritage Farm, who was my dad's cousin. So Margaret there. But she's been doing this for 60, 70 years. Oklahoma Farm Store, Oklahoma Heritage, has been there forever. But there's a little lady that lives near there who's friends with our little old lady, and she's like, oh, you need to come to my store. And she's like, I'm not going to your store till you come to my store. So it's very cute. But these little old ladies, they come in and they'll come in there asking if we got their bacon, and we do or we don't, or they'll call us and they're like, hey, do we have this in or that in? Yes, we have it. And then, my husband or myself or whoever's working, one of my sons or whatever, they're going to get their groceries carried and put in their car and helped out to their car and whatever. I mean, you're probably not going to get that at one of the big box stores. You're lucky if you can even get somebody to check you out.
This is true. And even if you do self-checkout, they're not always available. So it can be a little frustrating. But that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah.
So, this is an excellent community building idea, and that's what we really need, and helping each other out, and people like Dakota, man, wouldn't it be great if they say, if you got any questions, just go to your local Farm Hub. They can probably point you in the right direction if they don't know the answer themselves, right? Because in this community, we just know a lot of people. We
Sure.
know a lot of experts in this community. So, for those of you, and especially Dakota, with your ideas about wanting to sell meat locally, affordably, maybe you ought to look into the Farm Hub idea, whether it's to start one yourself, or even supply
Mhm.
as a vendor those
Mhm.
types of things,
Yeah.
working it out. Because if you are you know dedicated to that purpose, and you get in touch with the right people, especially around the Farm Hub idea, then I think amazing things can really come out of that, because there's just so much knowledge in our community about those types of things. So, and hey, if we can't find the non-GMO affordably, then that's an opportunity also to find ways around that by
Mhm.
figuring out how that happens. And we need that. We honestly need people focusing in that area.
Mhm.
And so, so
Um,
with the, go ahead, bro.
was just going to say, I want to, we'll get there here in just a minute with him, but I did not realize that you lose track of who everybody is. But Cedar Line is Chris Reeves.
Yeah, Chris Reeves, right?
So, you know, glad you're in with us. We'll be talking here very momentarily about this upcoming expo. But
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So, kind of moving on to the challenges of scaling farm hubs. I would like to see this just like go everywhere
Mhm.
all at once, so
Yeah.
that it could be in every community. But the reality is that getting that message out there to people, that it's available and it's needed, and even more to get people practicing going to these, like you, like I said, I am now, you're my idol, because you actually live it now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to do that. We've got
Mhm.
some of it going on here, but not completely.
Mhm.
Um, but scaling it up, what are some of the things? I know you're thinking of opening up a second hub store right now, or
Yes.
a farm hub right now.
Yeah, that is definitely our goal. We would, my day job is I am the executive director for Prior Main Street. So I'm all about downtown revitalization and economic development. I'm an economic development strategist. That's what I do for my day job. So um, this community could really use a store like ours. And as soon as I came to took this position, people at the chamber in different places were like, well, that's what we need here. And I'm like, I agree. Like I said, every single community should have one of those. So that is our goal, is to open up a second location as soon as I can find a vacant storefront. Which who do I know that could help me find that? Oh, that's my job.
Right.
So working on that. And then, a lot of things that like what you guys are doing. So thank you guys so much for having platforms like this to help spread the word about farm hubs and farmers market and local food sources and how that can happen. That's helping us get the word out, and that's helping hopefully provide information where other communities, where other people, wherever they may be at in their journey, could, if they're interested in something like this, help make it a little easier and provide a resource. I do mentoring for people interested in opening up a farm hub. If anyone has questions or wants to know the ins and the outs, or, I kind of went to the school of hard knocks for it, so I can tell you a lot and not what to do. So hit me up. Like, I would love to chat with you, talk with you, meet you for coffee, whatever you want to do, and help people out. Because like I said, I truly believe that every single community should have access to things like this. And then of course, like the homestead expos, those are really gaining in popularity, and more and more people are going to it. Or maybe it's just because I'm in this world now, so that's what I see.
Yeah.
Um, but being able to share and talk about that among other um, experts in this field and in the homestead world, and so all these different platforms, social media, can be a great tool And that's really what it is. Love it or hate it, that it is a tool.
Yeah.
Just like a brick, you can take a brick and you can build a house, or you can throw it through a window and break the window. It's all about how you use it. So
Yeah.
really, there's so many different avenues and different things. And then, they're through ODAF, the Oklahoma Department of Food and Forestry, they have regional and local workshops and summits, and OSU extension offices. We're talking about farm hubs there. And then in January, we'll have the Oklahoma Local Agricultural Summit, and I'm on that planning committee. If you're not a part of these discussions, or attending these types of workshops or summits, they're free. So attend and learn and get tuned in and get into these resources, because that's where they're at. And not only are you going to find out the information you need, but there's also a lot of grant funding to be able to do some of these things. I actually received a $2,000 capacity building grant to help us this last spring and helping promote the senior farmer market nutrition program, which is basically SNAP benefits for seniors, senior citizens, to help them be able to have access to farmers markets and farm hubs to be able to buy locally produced goods. So there's all kinds of resources.
Okay, so I've got a question on that. You just mentioned grants, which,
Mm-hmm.
Some eyebrows probably went up when they realized that there may be some help out there.
Absolutely.
In a lot of different ways, and we're just not aware of it. And so, did you have to go through a grant writer, or did you write the grant? How does that work?
I wrote the grant. I do have a little bit of background in that. So I wrote that, and that opportunity came to me by attending a workshop.
Right. Okay.
So there's that. And the same, I just submitted another grant. It's a food sustainability grant for rural communities. That's going to help me get some more freezers and refrigerators and shelving.
Amazing.
To increase our capacity. So once again, found that out by attending it was actually through the OSU Extension office, and they had someone from ODAF there and talking about grant funding. And that is a quarterly grant that comes out every quarter that you can write for. And so there's that. And I'll, while we're on the subject of writing these things, like, while I do have some background in that, use your resources. We were talking earlier, like you said it on the pre-show, about things like, AI and for you farmers. I'm not talking about artificial insemination. It's out there. Once again, it can be scary, but it's also, remember, it's a tool, and it's how you use it. And if you need help with some of these prompts, or you have the idea, but you need help making it pretty and getting the format down, it's a great tool. And that's some of the things I will be talking about I talk about in McAllister, and I'll also be talking about in Nowata at the Homestead Expo there.
Right. So it's nice that governments are, at least Oklahoma is actively helping people who have these types of ideas to make those things a reality. And I know that, and I'm just going to touch on this lightly, that some people out there might be a little bit afraid to get a .gov involved with their, in that. And I can certainly understand in the political landscape,
yeah,
that why their concerns would be real. What's been your experience so far with that?
So it's so interesting, because I feel like I'm taking off different hats all the time, because I work for a Main Street, which I received a lot of my funding from the municipality here, and I work under the Department of Commerce. So there's that. I told you earlier, I worked for a state job. I've worked in higher ed. I spend a lot of time and collaborate a lot with the Federal Reserve. So So there's these entities, and my degree was in political science, so I love a lot of that kind of stuff. And then I step over into my homestead world where it's like, don't trust the government, anything they say. So it's like I'm constantly, I'm like,
Balancing, right?
sometimes like, oh. But it's interesting because you have to understand both sides, and you have to understand both worlds. And it's interesting because you can see things that maybe others don't see. For instance, at a recent economic forum at the Federal Reserve, the director who is in charge of Oklahoma at the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Oklahoma City branch, Chad Wilkerson, I've known him for years, but he always talks about how he gets up, he wants to know who else gets up the day after Christmas and looks at the population trends for Oklahoma. Anybody? No. And, typically it's, when you have an influx of population like we have had in Oklahoma for the last few years, it's either more people are being born than are dying, or there's more people coming in from immigration than are not. So, obviously back in 2021, he woke up and was like, or was 2020, I think. He woke up and was like, what's going on, and saw that there's just like this influx, and same thing in 2021. And obviously we know what was going on during that time. So we know that there wasn't more people being born than dying, but there was actually more people dying than being born during those years. The borders were pretty much shut down. So we know that there wasn't more people coming in than not. So, and he's like, well, that's a blip. That's a blip on their population trend. I don't understand this. So the next year he does it again, and sure enough, it's the same thing. And he's like, okay, that's 2 years. It still could just be a blip. And he's like, if it happens 3 years or more, then that becomes a trend in population growth, and they need to do this investigation. And I'm like, over here on the homestead side, I'm looking at it like, Chad, I know where our population growth is coming from, because I even took pictures today of there was somebody else from the Federal Reserve talking about the same thing, where these people are migrating from to Oklahoma. It's from Washington and Oregon and California and Arizona. I'm like, they're homesteaders. They're coming here because we have, because they're seeking that freedom to be able to live their lives and produce for their families and make choices for their families that they can't in these other states.
Yeah, let's be perfectly clear. Right. Let's be perfectly clear. They're running away from overreaching regulation, trying to get back into a more commonsensical world, a world to where things are not upside down in almost every aspect. And I take that on great authority from others who I've spoken to, actual people who have done that. We've interviewed a gentleman who did that on this show, who moved from California, from a farm that was centuries in his family, or well, it was over a century, but a couple of centuries or something like that in his family, right? Yeah. So, we do know where, that part's coming from. And Chris over here says, Oklahoma also has the best homeschooling laws. That helps.
Absolutely.
Protection.
Absolutely.
Right. Chris, you chimed in timingly again. Because we do have, and it's kind of part of what this show is leading into, we do have New Beginnings Homestead Expo coming up on October 26th in Nowata, Oklahoma at the Trinity Church there. And Bridget is one of the speakers there going to be presenting. Bridget, can you give us just a little sneak peek? I mean, it may have been this whole show, I don't know, but
So I'm going to be talking about monetizing your homestead. So, and a lot of that is going to be talking about how can you make money from your homestead? How can you supplement your income that way? And it could be a farm hub, it could be farmers market, it could be looking into ways that you can actually feasibly do that in the right way for you. So I'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about the how to get into farm hubs. I'll be talking a lot about how my farm hub, how the kind of how it's set up. I'll be talking about our POS system and how it works for my vendors and how my vendors, a lot of them really love it. And if Dwayne's still on here, he can chime in and tell you some information on that. But I'll also be talking about utilizing social media and utilizing AI, things like ChatGPT, to help make things more efficient on your farm, on your homestead and your farms. And whether it's if you have a YouTube or if you have social media, and those of us that have lived in those worlds, and I used to be the content editor for the state for a social media platform, and it can almost become a second time job. And even for our farm hub, like my husband is like, if sales are down, he'll be like, well, have you made a post today? And it's like, it can be another full-time job, but how can we make this more efficient? Because, ain't nobody got time for that, sit around on social media all day trying to, to market yourself. But that's kind of the way the world works and the algorithm works. And especially if you're trying to get the word out, and if you're trying to reach your demographic and your audiences and different things, we got to make this more efficient, because, Dwayne, there he is. He's finally got on about, with his YouTube, and it took him a while to get there, because I'm busy feeding goats. I'm busy doing this. I'm busy with this. Like, I don't have time to sit around and film myself. So, how can we make this more efficient and make it workable?
Right. Right. So can you tell us a little bit about the dates of when that is going to be, the New Beginnings Homestead Expo?
October 26th, out in Nowata at the Trinity Church there. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's at the church or not.
Trinity.
And there'll be a lot of other great speakers. Dwayne will be there talking about medicinal herbs, and Justin McConaughey from Oklahoma Department of Food and Forestry will be there as well. And so he'll be a great resource, especially for those that are interested in farm hubs and farmers markets and marketing your goods as well, because he's our inspector.
Reading through, I know that, Chris, and of course, in talking with Chris last week, how much, they're just wanting to equip people, there are people in their community, and equip people with the information they need to kind of go out. And I mean, it's and now, did you speak with Chris's last event that he did?
I did. Yes, I did.
Share with us a little bit about what it's actually physically like there with, I know it was at a different location.
Right, different location. And I think they're doing a lot of things different this year from my understanding. But I mean, it was great. There was once again, a lot of great speakers. There was also vendors there. I don't know that if there's going to be this time or not. Chris, again, if you want to chime in. But last time there were vendors there so you could also buy goods. It was almost like a farmer's market going on, along with all these series of workshops. So it was great.
But
Dwayne's talking about rainwater harvesting. That's right, composting. Dwayne is a wealth of knowledge. He knows everything about everything.
I know. I did. So Chris just chimed back in. Yeah, vendors will be there, and open. That part's open to the public for free.
Awesome.
The vendors are now. That's a fee to come in to hear the speakers, but and that's minimal. That's $18 if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Very, very inexpensive expo to attend.
And so 15. I'm sorry, 15. I was giving you a $3 booth there.
That's
right. 15 even better.
Yeah. To see speakers, it's $15 to see the speakers.
Under free, under 18 free, if I remember that correctly.
Right. I believe that's correct.
So you can go to folks can go onto Facebook and look up New Beginnings Homestead Expo. They have an event created there at Trinity Church, and it has location details. It has, I know he's got a post on there of who all is speaking and what different topics they're going to be talking about. It's 10 to 4. So, I mean, you know, it's something you can go and do in a day. So you don't necessarily have to have a hotel room or whatever to go do. You know, I know that the Farm to Table Direct show is planning to be there. Chris, Keith, and our other brother are going to be going over there and doing some coverage. And so some of y'all might get to meet the mysterious third brother.
Yeah.
But yes, as Jack Dyer said, there's 3 of y'all.
Yeah, there is.
It's scary. Anyway, so that's definitely worth checking out. I already had previous commitments, so I can't be there, but I'm going to miss out on that. But you can go there, and you will be getting Farm to Table Direct show coverage as well if you can't make it. But if you're anywhere in the Oklahoma, particularly the eastern Oklahoma, northeastern Oklahoma area, you know, plan you a Saturday in the fall to go up. 1, you can do some shopping, and 2, you can get to learn some information up there at that. And that's kind of what all this is about. And, you know, when the Farm Hub idea has had mine and Keith's brain going since we first talked about it. And, you know, Bridget, we want to thank you for that time that you've spent with us.
Yeah.
And information, man, the information bomb that came out of this. But so what's you know, maybe some, you know, a final thought or a final encouragement to anybody that maybe even just thinking about doing or joining a Farm Hub or you know,
Right. A vendor.
Yeah.
You're interested in being a vendor.
Yeah.
You're interested in doing a hub, or you're interested in information as to where you can find a local farm hub. Any of those things, that's what we need to talk about.
So if you know.
Yeah, you know.
So you can look up all the farm hubs on the Oklahoma Agritourism website.
Mhm.
They're all on there. Just type it in, and you can search it even by regionally and see all the ones that are listed. We are currently not listed on there because we just had to recertify. So as soon as our recertification goes in, then we will be back on the website. So, but yeah, so you can find everyone on there. So that's one easy way to find it. That's also where you're going to find out all the information about if you want to open a farm hub, if you're interested in that, and also all the rules and regulations. So there's all the pamphlets like, you know, if you need an egg license on the Oklahoma Homemade Food Freedom Act, all these different entities, dairy, all the things that you need to know about opening a farm hub. It's going to be on the website.
And where can they reach you?
Yeah. So my email address is bnichols, BNICHOLS, at thefarmacybarntotable.com. I know it's long. I know. That's my email. I also do all the social media. So if you message the Farmacy Barn to Table Market, that's going to be me responding. And then you can also call, the store anytime. It's 918-440-0922.
You got it.
For a minute, like work phone or
hey, you're on professional broadcasting here, so you have to repeat that twice like everybody else.
Okay.
One more time.
440-0922.
There you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, so folks, definitely, you know, hopefully this stirred some conversation or will stir some conversation about that. I know, like I said, it's got Keith and mine's brain going, trying to figure out different ways that could work or how, you know, and through some of the challenges you've shared with us about that are. So, but folks, listen again, go out, Farmacy Barn to Table Market. Check them out. They're out on the socials. And if you're around the Oshaleta area, did I get that right? Because that's one of the.
Yeah. 10 minutes south of Bartlesville. Yeah, right off Highway 75.
Okay, so south of Bartlesville. So if you're in the Tulsa, northeast Oklahoma area, you know, you're not far. And so you can travel out there to get you some homegrown local food and support a small business and support a small community. So definitely check that out. And again, October 26th, coming up here in just a little over a week. at New Beginnings Homestead Expo, Nowata, Oklahoma at Trinity Church. Again, you can find that on Facebook as well, New Beginnings Homestead Expo, and you can get all the information there. And and Chris just chimed in, the director, founder, all things important up there. Pastor Chris, highly recommend making the trip, especially for the classes. Yes, absolutely. The knowledge that can be gained in a short amount of time and the resources to be able to actually physically ask those questions in person or just learn something you didn't know. And I know that Bridget's super smart with what she talks about. I've heard her AI, part of her AI presentation, so definitely worth seeing that. And Dwayne Hall, keynote speaker, and he is super smart in a lot of areas, and so and a good friend as well. So anyway, folks, that is kind of it right there. So hopefully, some of y'all out there may be inspired by the conversation, and look around your area, support that local, local farm, that local farm store, farmers market.
Right.
Anybody there that you can support the local. And if you were listening to the program or go back and watch it later, you can hear some of the virtues of being able to do that. Some of the things that it spares you from in a lot of things, and makes life just a little bit more sustainable and a little bit more survivable when that proverbial peanut butter hits the fan. And so, so definitely take that into account. And so,
Yeah, I just have a couple of things to say here.
Yeah.
One is, we're all about
stronger together.
And keeping it local.
Absolutely.
For your information, behind the scenes of the hashtags, tune in to the Farm to Table Direct Show.
Absolutely. And so, folks, we end every program the same way, and this one will be no exception. First, thanks to everybody in chat for joining in. Thanks for your information, your questions, just the whole conversation. Hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe, hit the follow, hit all them buttons. Help us get this message out. Help us get the word out to the homestead community and beyond. There's room for everybody at the table when it comes to homesteading and self-sustainable living. And, so we want everybody, because the more they're feeding themselves, the less they're dependent upon the chain. And we were all about taking links out of the chain. So thank you all for that. Thank you again, Bridget, bro. Yep. Another good show in the books. And so we're going to wrap this off. The way we do is prepare for the unexpected and keep it local is what we say. But because me and him are in different studios, I'll say the first half and then he'll chime in on the second. But so folks, again, tune in. Stay tuned for our next show. We're still working on the schedule of that. But it will be next Tuesday at 7 p.m. right here on this channel, no matter what's happening. And so we will make that happen. And also New Beginnings Homestead Expo, October 26th. Be looking for that coverage out there as well. We'll get more information out as that gets closer. Folks, it's been great. It's been fun. As we always say, we are #stronger together. Keep it local. And as always, prepare for the unexpected and
keep it local.